Welcome, ladies and germs. Har har hardy har har. Welcome anyone who's listening to another spectacular episode of Velvet Al Watches Baywatch Nights so you don't have to. And trust me, you don't want to. To give you an idea of how long in advance I record these, because I have no fucking clue when this one will actually come up. But I just got done watching WrestleMania 39. So if you're listening like 5 years from now, that's how long it'll take. Because in addition to how long it takes me to actually like upload these, then there's when you're actually listening to it, which could be years from now. There is a possibility, a non-zero possibility, that while you're listening to this, I am dead. I'm just throwing it out there. But anyhow, WrestleMania 39 pissed me off. It's a fairly good show. And then fucking Roman Reigns beat Cody Rhodes. And why am I talking about this? I don't know. If you've listened to the previous episodes, I'm kind of just procrastinating before watching Baywatch Nights. Because, dear Lord, the show gives me a headache. Why do I do this podcast? Because I made a joke and I'm committing to the bit. So, we are watching Season 1, Episode 6, which is the 6th episode overall, obviously. And this one's called 976 Ways to Say I Love You. So my guess, this episode is going to deal with phone sex. Which, I don't know, does this mean David Hasselhoff's going to go undercover and pretend to be a phone sex operator? That will definitely be something if that's what happens. I mean, I'm hoping Angie Harmon. Oh, I'd like to hear her talk sexy. But this is like a syndicated television show, so her talking sexy will probably be not sexy at all. So, but having to take a bitter pill, best to just get in and swallow. So I am hitting play on this episode. Just real quickly, because for a reason I don't fully understand, the title of the episode is always posted in German. And I don't know if it's because this is ripped from a German version, but it's not subtitled or dubbed in German. So why? And I understand, David Hasselhoff is big in Germany. Is this specifically for the German audience that understands English? I don't understand the point of unless this was a German DVD that somehow had an English audio track and that's what they're using to rip these videos for YouTube. But then why are the credits in English? I don't understand why there's a German title at the beginning of every episode. But this one, the title in German is, and I'm probably gonna mispronounce this horribly, Be-Anruf Sex. Be-Anruf Sex. So yeah, this must be about phone sex. Actually, let me see if I can find a translation for Be-Anruf Sex. Okay. Apparently there's a 1985 video called Be-Anruf Sex. So let me load this up. Normally I don't do all this checking up IMDb and Googling stuff while I'm recording. But now I am just curious. And okay, we have no information for it, but under storyline, hardcore sex, and genre, adult. So apparently this episode of Baywatch Nights shares a title with a porn video. Wow, and then there's a book by Be-Anruf Sex, and links to Horse Hub and New Porn. I'm not going to click on those. European Girls Adult Film Database. Wow. So there's like a... What if I just... Translation. Let me just clear... Dude. This is not helping me at all. See, now in a... in a professional podcast, this would be all done like offline and to avoid all these like, it's me trying to figure out. So translated from German to English, not Vietnamese. Why do you want to? No! Now it wants to translate from Vietnamese. This isn't Vietnamese. Why are you... Okay, from German to English. On call! So yes, I am right. This episode is going to be about phone sex. Aren't you glad I wasted all that time to figure that out? Okay, so this week's guest stars include Michael Winslow, the guy from Police Academy who makes all the funny noises, and Nancy Cartwright, who does the voice of Bart Simpson. And I am so hoping that they play the phone sex operators. It's just, how awesome would it be to have like phone sex with Michael Winslow making those funny noises? That just, ooh boy, that's just making me ejaculate in my pants right now. So, David Hasselhoff and Carter or Gardner, I've already forgotten the black guy's name. Please forgive me for that. But they're on surveillance watching some guy who's selling illegal electronics out of the trunk of his car. And they're like, okay, if we catch this guy, it's going to be some big money for us. But unfortunately, they then get crop dusted. Nope, not someone came by and farted all over and left the smell. An actual crop duster plane came by and dropped, what did they drop? DDT? Some sort of pesticide? Whatever they dropped. The crop duster dropped on our heroes. Oh, and it's like this white powder. Hopefully it wasn't anthrax. Did they drop anthrax on our heroes? That would be very sad. So this pretty little blonde walks into the detective agency, and Hasselhoff and the other detective are all over her because she's a pretty little blonde. And she needs to find her quote-unquote boss who owes her $2,000. And, where am I? Sorry, my mind just froze there. So anyhow, she needs to get the money she's owed. And what does she do for work? She's a phone sex operator. And the detectives, they're kind of judgy. Come on, guys. Sex work is work, guys. Just... my mind. This fucking show just destroys my mind. Anyhow, yeah, sex work is work, dude. Just, she's owed the money. Don't be judgmental. And she tries to justify it as, oh, well, you know, she's just an actress that has been out of work, so she had to take whatever gig she can get. Don't justify it. You don't need to justify it. It's honest work, and you did the work, and you deserve the money. But it's a little tricky because she was hoping that they work on contingency, and the guys are kind of like, not sure. We always get burned when we work on contingency, so we gotta do the flat rate. But Angie Harmon's like, no, we gotta do the right thing. So they agree to take the job on contingency. Now, the pretty little blonde girl promises that she's gonna quit the phone sex gig and pursue real acting. God, this show's so fucking judgmental. Fucking 90s. They're like, you're a hooker or you're a phone sex worker. Like, you're just scum of the earth. Sex work is work. Repeat it after me. Sex work is work. Sex work is work. Now that I've gotten that little tirade off. So they go to the apartment building, or the office building. Well, I mean, it's an office building, but it kind of looks like an apartment building, where the office is supposed to be located. but there's no answer on the door, and there's all these post-it notes all over the door saying that, she owes people all this money, like, you bitch, give me my money, and stuff like that. And Hasselhoff's going to try to just break the door down, but Angie Harmon's like, no, don't do that. Look, there's some splinters there. You might hurt yourself. But she takes one of the splinters that she's going to analyze later. Meanwhile, Hasselhoff, in his faded Adidas jacket, cheap plug, hey Adidas, give me money, because I am plugging you in every episode of this by pointing out that you are plugging yourself in Baywatch nights. So Hasselhoff and the other detective, they go down and they see a security guard in front of some other, office. And they're like, oh, do you know this lady who's, well, they don't say, she's running a phone sex line, but, do you know her? And he doesn't say anything, but then the office he's guarding opens the door, and this guy comes out. And it's some sort of call center. First I thought it was more phone sex, but I can't quite tell, what they're saying, so it could just be a legitimate call office center, or, although they get real offices. So this is probably a telemarketer or some sort of scam office. But the guy claims oh, no, don't know her, haven't heard of her. Meanwhile, Angie Harmon's trying to get to the apartment from the other side, from the outside, so she climbs up a scaffolding, and no one stops her from climbing this up. So I'm guessing the workers are on break, and they're like, fuck it, not my problem, we're on break. And she's up there, and she's trying to get in, but then a vehicle, a car or a truck, I've forgotten already, comes by and smashes the scaffolding out of the way. And still the construction workers are like, not my problem, I'm on break. And the scaffolding falls, but luckily Angie Harmon has managed to grab a rope, but she's just dangling from, at least, 4 floors up, maybe 3 floors up. And, she's screaming for help. Luckily, Hasselhoff comes, and he climbs up the fire escape, and manages to jump on the rope and bring the... I'd already forgotten. He saves her somehow. My mind refuses to retain too much information from Baywatch nights. But he saves her. But they know, they're onto something big if someone's going to try to kill them. So Hasselhoff goes to see the little blonde girl to give her an update on what's going on. But her boyfriend thinks that they should just drop it. Even though, it's $2,000 that they could really use. But this is some bad shit. Getting in it's a hornet's nest in the phone sex operation business. He thinks he should drop it. And then meanwhile, David Hasselhoff starts admiring the boyfriend's dirt bike. And oh, yeah, good. The boyfriend's all yeah, this dirt bike's awesome. I like to race it on weekends. I bet this comes into play. It's Chekhov's dirt bike. Meanwhile, the other detective, he's meeting his buddy, Michael Winslow, who's apparently some sort of phone hacker, and he proves it by hacking into Clinton's, private office number. Woo! Yeah, expect Secret Service to be showing up at your door any minute now. So, he's going to hack into the lady's number, because... Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, because I thought it was kind of dumb, but anyhow, the number they have for her, it rings, but it didn't ring inside the office. So, where's this number? And apparently, Michael Winslow, while doing pointless sound effects, the boop, 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 pretending that he's the phone system. Yeah, I don't... This was just an excuse for him to do, sound effects, but not very, doesn't really make sense. You just have, this crazy guy who's making sound effects while he's hacking into phones. Well, I guess hackers are a little insane. But turns out that her office number it's a call forward. Yeah. It forwards the calls to her cell number. Oh, boy. 1990s cell technology on the way! Luckily, this being the 90s, there's not a lot of cell phone towers around. Although the other detective helpfully explains to Angie Harmon how important these things are and how we're just going to keep getting more and more of them in the country because cell phones are just becoming more popular, as well as portable fax machines. So, he was right on cell phones. I didn't realize portable fax machines were really a thing. Or are they just fax machines altogether? So I guess fax machines that work on Wi-Fi? I don't know, because I'm picturing like just someone carrying a fax machine with them, but I realized portable would just mean that, you could easily move it from spot to spot, and not necessarily that you would just be carrying a fax machine with you, though that thought is now, got me amused. But, so they find the cell tower because Michael Winslow has helped them, track down to which cell tower the calls have been coming from. And so they've got these, little homing beacons that are going to track the phone, and they're searching, and the signal keeps coming. And it's coming from the junkyard. And there's a car in the junkyard. And a lady is there, dead. So the autopsy is done. And the coroner says that the lady was strangled from behind. But he thinks he sees in her ring some blood. So they're going to send it over to get the blood tested. That might be the killer. Most likely. And the Hasselhoff Detective Agency is there. And for some reason the black partner is wearing a do-rag. And I really, really hope it has something to do with some undercover case. Because it is just so random that, why is he suddenly wearing a do-rag? Meanwhile, the real police detective is there, and he's very upset that, the Hasselhoff Detective Agency is there, because, they don't really have jurisdiction or anything, because they're not real cops. And he wants information on who hired the Hasselhoff Detective Agency, because that was probably the killer, or at the very least, has information that could lead to the killer, but there's Zip, nope, And I will mention the police detective is black, only because he then goes to the black partner, and he says, I liked it better when you were one of us, and something, and so I'm guessing they were, I don't know, was he, an actual police detective at some point, or is it just, some gang thing, because he's wearing a fucking do-rag now. I don't know, maybe he got confused. The police detective's all black people look alike to me. Because police are racist, even when they're black. Even when they're black themselves, they are racist. But the police detective lets it spill who's his top two suspects, which helpfully, are the same two suspects the Hasselhoff Detective Agency has. Angie Harmon and the black partner, I really gotta remember his name. They ride off on their motorcycle. Well, I think it's his motorcycle. Meanwhile, David Hasselhoff hangs back a bit, and the van that knocked Angie Everhart's scaffolding off earlier pulls up, and obviously, it's his, because the front end of the van is, smashed. And out comes the whatchamacallit dude who was running the call center, who claimed he didn't know the lady, but he does. And he just wanted David Hasselhoff to make sure he knows that he knows. So, back at the detective agency office, the blonde girl that hired them, she's crying because, the police suspect her, and, there's no way she could have done it, because she's, weak and tiny and pathetic. How could it possibly be her? And the Hasselhoff Detective Agency, they're like, we know it's not you, but we're going to have to get into that office. How can we? And, of course, the only way to get in, because they can't sneak in, it's 24 hours, someone's there. So the only way to sneak in is to go undercover and be one of the phone sex girls. But, obviously there's only one in the detective agency who could handle this undercover assignment. Which means we're gonna get some sexy Angie Harmon reading sexy dirty talk. Aw, yeah. So Angie Harmon stays late at the office because she's got to practice her sex voice. And she's wearing an Adidas shirt because, god damn, this Adidas, must have pretty much paid for the entire show with how much, like, their logo is just all over the place. But it's kind of sexy in that, like, homebody type way, because it's, like, cut off so that it's, like, hanging off the shoulder, sort of like that old, like, classic Flashdance look. So, oh yeah, Angie Harmon, talk dirty to me. She's not very good at the talking dirty, but it's great because she's picturing David Hasselhoff being the one that calls in, and she's trying to talk all sexy to this imaginary David Hasselhoff. It's a little awkward when David Hasselhoff walks in, like, haha. Because, yeah, Angie Harmon wants to ride David Hasselhoff. And who doesn't? Well, I mean, I don't, but I sometimes think I would want to ride David Hasselhoff. So she goes in for her first day on the job, and Nancy Cartwright is the boss lady. Just so weird, because it's kind of like, I'm trying to think, it's like one of the Flanders kids. Which one's the younger one, Rod? Or maybe it's more Todd. I don't know, kind of a mix of like the Flanders kids and Bart, and if the Flanderses and Bart had a baby and the baby was a girl. That's kind of her voice. I'm guessing maybe that's her natural voice, or is she like doing a voice? But it's just kind of weird. It's like very high and squeaky, and I kind of still wish like she was doing one of the sex voices, because that would just be like really funny to hear. But Angie Harmon's ready, even though they're starting her off on 976. Ouch. So yeah, she's got the S&M line, I guess. She's gonna have to hurt these guys that call in. Hurt them good. Angie Harmon gets her first call, and oh boy, must be a doozy, because just right away, you're a disgusting pig, and she hangs up. So maybe she's not cut out for 976 pain. Who knows what he was asking for, but luckily on the walkie-talkie, she's got the other guys in the detective agency, Hasselhoff and the other guy. And they're going to walk her through it and tell her, like, you know, don't really listen to what they say, just, you know, give, like, vague, like, generalizations, like, oh, yeah, that turns me on, and, yeah, we can do that. Because this is kind of the limits of what we can do on syndicated TV. They can't get too into the dirty talk, so they just do it in that breathy voice, like, oh, yeah. And then, best of all, because this is Baywatch Nights, and apparently, so far in this show, it seems like a big part of the show is white boy blues. But this time, a twist. It's white girl blues. And we get intercut the white girl blues music with, and it's like live from the White Boy Blues Club. She's performing there, and it's intercut with all the girls, but most prominently Angie Harmon doing phone sex. And I don't think I can really do it any justice without playing some of it for you.
You belong to someone. I like that too. Does she love you like I do, baby? Does she handle you with care? But you want to hear what I want to do to you? Handle you with care. Oh, I want to make you feel good. Whatever you want to talk about, can you picture what I look like? Okay, you sound slick, good looking. I'm just telling what you thought. And then I want you to carry me to the bedroom.
Okay, you get the idea, right? So, yeah, so sexy with the white girl blues. And best of all, because, like, we're intercutting shots of the white girl blues singer, who's also playing guitar, so don't get me wrong, she's talented, just not interesting. So we cut that with the girls working at the phone sex line, and shots of David Hasselhoff and the other guy sitting in the car, the walkie-talkie, listening. And they're into it. Because they're now thinking like, oh yeah, Angie Harmon, she's being sexy. Oh yeah. That would make this scene like so much like just perfect if just one of them just let out a oh yeah. So Angie Harmon then sneaks into the boss's office so that she can try to figure out what's going on, see if she can find any like incriminating evidence. Because damn bosses always just leave the incriminating evidence out there on their desk. And that's always what causes their downfall. But the boss is in there, unbeknownst to Angie Harmon at first, and he comes up to her and says, well, why don't we get ourselves a little more acquainted? And Hasselhoff and the other guy are hearing that on the walkie-talkie, and they're like, oh no, shit's about to go down. Let's go in there and save Angie Harmon. And they storm in, and they storm through the office, and they go into the boss's office, and, well, surprise and kind of awkward, the boss is offering Angie Harmon a drink. Wah, wah. Oh, well. Egg on your face, guys. So the boss points out how he's just a legitimate businessman. And I don't mean that in the way of like a mob boss being like, oh, I'm just a legitimate businessman. I don't know if any mob bosses ever sounded like that. That's how I would sound if I were a mob boss. I'm a legitimate businessman. No, but it's a legitimate business. Sure, Angie Harmon, she's all like, it's a sick business. And, you know what, fuck you, Angie Harmon. You had my heart, but you are so down on this, like, phone sex thing. And repeat it after me. Sex work is work. Which is the point that the boss is making. And I'm sure he's exploiting the women by underpaying them. But he understands it's a business. It's a job. As he points out, the FCC and the Supreme Court say it's allowed, it's okay. People can talk sexy on the phone for money. And I'm down for that. Yeah. But conveniently, he does happen to remember, like, seeing some guy. Oh, because the whole thing was this woman just kind of, like, went off on her own to make her own business, and he's like, yeah, but, you know, whatever. It's a business. It's what people do. But he did happen to see the guy that punched a hole through the door. Oh, hey, remember that? That Angie Harmon took the sample of the door to see if they could find anything. God, I hope I mentioned that earlier. That they took... I'm sure I did because I knew, I could just sense that it was going to come into play. And they just realized, like, hey, we got the sample. We can find out who it was. And find out they do. And no points if you guessed that it was the blonde girl's boyfriend. I guessed it. I don't think I voiced my guess. But just take my word. I thought he was a suspect because he rides a dirt bike. And you know who rides dirt bikes? Dirt bags. That is a good line. I am going to use that for something. It's going to offend everyone who rides dirt bikes, but what are they going to do? Ride their dirt bike to my house? They probably will. So, no, I am not. I retract my statement about dirt bags riding dirt bikes. Sure, some dirtbags do ride dirt bikes, but there is no correlation between the two. Just want to make that clear. Please do not come to my house riding your dirt bike. So they go after the guy, and it's because, you know, he thinks, like Angie Harmon, he thinks it's sick work, it's not real work, and he doesn't want his girlfriend doing it, and, you know, there's these tapes now of his girlfriend talking sexy on the phone, so he had to kill her. So the murderous boyfriend tries to make his escape on his dirt bike. But luckily, the other detective, he's got a motorcycle, so he chases after him like, vroom, and he puts on his helmet because they're both wearing helmets because safety is the most important thing in this chase. And unfortunately, the dirt bike guy manages to grab a stick and uses it to put it into the wheel of the other dude's motorcycle, causing him to tumble. And it was kind of cool because it reminded me of the game Road Rash. Is it Road Rash or Road Rage? I'm pretty sure it's called Road Rash, where it's a motorcycle race, but you can, like, hit the other, like, contestants in the race, like, with lead pipes and shit to knock them off. Or you can just punch them straight up. Yeah, I think, like, your options were, like, punch, lead pipe, or chain. And, I mean, you had to pick up the lead pipe or the chain. Otherwise, you were stuck with the punch. But either way, like, anyway, it was just awesome. Like, why don't they still make Road Rash games? And it also had a fucking awesome soundtrack with, like, Soundgarden and Monster Magnet. It was just, like, one of the fucking coolest games. I don't know why they discontinued the series. It was such a brilliant idea. So that's what happens. And, oh boy, Dirt Bike Guy's gonna get away, except Hasselhoff's got his Corvette. And he's chasing after him, and don't fuck with the Hasselhoff. Remember, he is the Knight Rider. Before he was Baywatching, he was night riding. And he manages to get ahead of Dirt Bike Guy and stop his Corvette. Because he's expecting, like, okay, Dirt Bike Guy's coming straight at it, he's going to stop, and we're going to arrest him. Dirt Bike Guy doesn't stop. And somehow, magically, and I don't know if you can do this with dirt bikes, I would assume you need some kind of ramp, but Dirt Bike Guy jumps over the Corvette! It's actually pretty fucking cool scene. It's like the bus and Speed that there's no way it could have made that sort of jump because there was no ramp. Like, I know you could pop a wheelie on a dirt bike and you could probably jump into a little bit of height, but to jump over the Corvette, oh right, that's awesome, he's gonna escape. Oh, by the way, the Corvette was parked along a cliff. So you can imagine, he made the leap over, landing didn't quite stick. And, I'm guessing dead, because that's where the show ended. Dirt Bike Guy leaps over, and he crashes when he lands on the side of the cliff. David Hasselhoff is looking over the cliff, all upset. Cut to credits. What? No wrap-up on that one? Like, every other episode has ended with a wrap-up in the White Boy Blues Club, which is probably why they had to work it in earlier into the phone sex scene, because they're like, well, it's not going to be used in the ending, so we got to stick it somewhere. But no, like, cleanup of, like, finding out, like, oh, well, at least lady's going to get her money. Because the lady that owed Blondie the money is dead. So how does that work? How is Blondie going to get her $2,000? Because obviously the other guy, like, she wasn't hired by him, so he has no obligation to pay her. Does the lady's next of kin or something? Like, who's going to pay her the $2,000? And remember, the Hasselhoff Detective Agency is working on contingency. So, in addition to having to watch a guy fall to his death, Hasselhoff's not getting paid. So many loose ends. That's probably why they didn't finish it, because they're like, there's a lot of loose ends and we don't know how to tie them up. Cut to credits. No one will realize, no one will be the wiser. Well, you know what, Baywatch Nights producers? I was the wiser. I see all the loose ends that you left dangling like my participle. Yeah, that's what I call my dick, is the dangling participle. But I'm so upset. I'm torn, because on the one hand, we got to see a guy jump over a Corvette and fall to his death. On the other hand, I kind of do want some closure on this. And I'm guessing the next episode is not going to mention this at all. Because, especially with syndicated series, they kind of really don't have like a run-through storyline. Because, the syndicated networks just might decide to flip all the episodes all around and put it in any order. Because the whole point of syndication is, you just watch it because it's on, and you don't really care if you've seen other episodes, if you missed a bunch of episodes. It's like Law and Order. It's a case of the week. So that, you can just watch a random episode. So I don't think we're going to find out next episode what happened to the guy on the dirt bike. So I'm going to pretend that he flew to safety and went back to his home planet. Sure, why not? The show is not giving us an ending. So, I too will not give you an ending. I'm just kidding. This is the same ending I give for every podcast episode. velvetal@hotmail.com, or leave a comment in the YouTube section, because I'm pretty sure this is going on YouTube. Or, drive by my house on your dirt bike. I will say hi. Till next time. Because, let's see, 6 episodes down, and if my math is correct, that's too many fucking episodes left to go.